Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we're driving something pretty special, I think. This is the all-new 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe, and this is a fully loaded Calligraphy. So we've got a lot to talk about and a lot to show you. All right, so let's talk about the vehicle that we've got here. The Santa Fe, in case you haven't noticed, is completely redesigned for 2024. It is miles and away different from the model it replaces. It's larger. It has a 190-inch length. It's got a 110-inch wheelbase, and that means it's now standard with 3 rows of seating. It's gotten bigger, but let's look at it, man. This thing has gotten far more stylish, far more artistic, and dare I say it, bold. Now, the one we have here is fully loaded. This is a Calligraphy trim grade. It has a standard turbocharged engine, and if you go for the hybrid, it's about $1,000 more if you get the same trim grade here at the top. If you're down at the bottom end, it's about a $3,000 difference stepping up from the gas to the hybrid. But let's talk about the styling, because just look at it, man. It's almost retro. It's almost got an 80s retro vibe, but on the other hand, it's really got more of a modern tint. LED signature lights up front with a very interesting H pattern in their signature. Gloss black trim along the lower front fascia, and really when you step away and look at the shapes, it's very straight, chiseled lines, not a lot of complexity. It's very simple, but it's done in a way that it looks very classy, I think. Coming around the corner, this has 21-inch alloy wheels on it. They're black. They go quite well with the gloss black trim that you see quite a lot of here. Now, I will share that I'm a little bit on the concerned side with all of this gloss black down on the lower rockers. What's that going to look like down the road with sand pitting and wear and tear and things like that? But it sure does look good today. This color is an optional color. It is the one and single only option on this vehicle, about $1,000. You can get this matte finish both in this shade as well as a gray shade. So they've given you a couple options, and the color palette on this, it really fits it well. There's a nice sagey green out there. I wish it were matte too, but it looks good also in gloss. Now we've got to look at the rear 3/4 view, because it's just as dramatic as it is up front. And I will tell you that the design of the rear of this is the one thing I've seen a lot of commentary out there on the internet from viewers who say they just don't like the way the rear end of this looks. And it kind of looks like the Isuzu Axiom from the 80s. There's a couple other 1980s references that I've seen, but overall, I really think it has a very classy kind of a Range Rover-like rear silhouette. Look at the flush glass coming down the back and around the corner, the tight fit, the tolerances, the attention to detail, and just the overall build quality and the alignment of everything as we come back. Not something people would have expected from Hyundai 20 years ago. This is a power opening rear hatch. You expect that at this price. And to those taillights, which a lot of people talk about. Some people love them, some people hate them. I don't hate them. I kind of like the way everything comes together, especially with that extra little red reflector down there at the bottom. But look at the H that lights up in these taillights. These LED taillights duplicate the same design motif that we see up front with the signature lighting, which is kind of cool. They put some thought into this. They didn't just throw some stuff on the vehicle and say done. Looking at the lower bumper, you've got gloss black trim back there, just like around the sides and up front, and a nice exhaust finisher back there that you're going to find on this vehicle. If you get the hybrid, it doesn't have that, but it otherwise looks virtually identical. Another little cool detail that I really like is this. Now, it's only available on the higher trim grades, but it is a built-in handle. You push that in, and it allows you to just get right up here and load things. If you've got a ski rack, if you've got any kind of storage container, a tent, things like that, it allows you easy access to just get right up here and get into whatever you're working on up there. I think that is pretty cool. And then of course you can just press it and it goes back out. It's unfortunately not part of the lower trim grades, at least as far as what I can tell on the website. Since we're talking about the roof up there, standard roof racks, and they're pretty sturdy. They have a pretty high limit for weight. That means it'll take just about anything you can buy on the accessories market, and it's going to be fine. If there wasn't enough to talk about on the outside of the Santa Fe, the interior, well, we're going to sit down and have a conversation, because This is the place that really knocks my socks off. This is where modern day design and mid-century theme have really come together with a level of quality and workmanship that I'm quite surprised by, especially from Hyundai, especially in this class, which tends to be sort of vanilla, milk toast, bread and butter family wagons. No, here, this is almost as good as it gets when it comes to interior design in the modern automotive market. And so, yes, I'm waxing eloquently, I'm gushing on it, but just look at this modern, mid-century, horizontal, sort of tasteful, Volvo-esque, Scandinavian, Copenhagen furniture store kind of look. I packed a lot into that, didn't I? But look at it. There's beautiful materials, beautiful execution, proportions, and as good as it looks, there's a lot of versatility here. So let's talk about a few of these things. First of all, over here, what looks like a second glove box above the first one is actually a UV light sanitizer for things like your phone, sunglasses, anything else that you can put in there. You can go down here on the center console, turn the switch on, and put your items in there, sanitize those things. That is the first time I've ever seen that in a car. You can also use it as an extra glove box if you didn't feel like you needed to clean anything. The cockpit design features the newest from Hyundai curved cockpit display with two 12.3-inch screens, a 12.3-inch instrument cluster ahead of the driver that's customizable, and a 12.3-inch infotainment user experience display and control panel here. Below it, some nice horizontal vents and hard controls for the infotainment system, touch-sensitive hard controls below that for the HVAC and a number of other things. Down on the center console, this is sort of a cantilevered floating console. Down below it, a lot of storage. You can put a backpack or a purse down there. And check this out. The top of the console has this nice big flat tray, not one, but two wireless phone charging pads. Now that might sound ridiculous to some, but just driving around with my husband this weekend, we spent a lot of time with both of our phones sitting on this platform, doing exactly that. It made perfect sense to us out on a day where we were busy and running our phones down. Now behind that are a set of cup holders, and check this out. Big console storage in here, big. Now just looking in there, the first thing you can see is a large enough space for probably 1.5 square tissue boxes, but that's not all. That bottom pulls out, and now you've got twice the depth going on. This goes all the way to the floor. You can put another 1.5 tissue boxes in there, or you can store other things down there that you don't need to get to very often. So this really has almost the most storage that I have seen in this class. But this also opens from front to back. Check that out. So someone sitting in the back seat can reach in there and get in there as well. And it's just sort of an innovative design. Another first. You don't see this very often in the automotive world. When it comes to the driver controls, I've got this very nice two-tone leather steering wheel with paddle shifters. Over on the right is a toggle gear selector, which is not my favorite, but I'm slowly getting the hang of it. And it does free up all that space on the center console for the things we've talked about. The seats I'm sitting on are power heated and ventilated seats, both for the driver and the passenger. Driver does have memory settings and a nice little Ottoman style feature that allows when the vehicle stops for a little bit of a rest to come out and get up against the cab. So if you're parked and you're relaxing, but that is something you can only use when you're stopped and not actually driving. These seats are comfortable, they're very supportive, they are a bit firm, but with the Napa leather, I have been very comfortable, especially in the summer. And with the ventilation, they've actually been quite comfortable from the climate sense. Above my head is a standard size sunroof. From the outside, looks like a full panoramic roof, but it's actually dual sunroofs from the inside. This front panel does open and it has a sliding cover. When you get to the back, it is a power cover and a fixed panel. Your rear seat passengers are going to be happy with the extra wheelbase and size of this vehicle because there's actually quite a bit more legroom back here, about 1.4 inches for the second row. And as you can see, I've got plenty of it. These seats are set for my height, about 5'8", 5'9", give or take, depending on what I'm wearing for shoes or boots. I've got about 6 inches of knee room ahead, allowing me almost a living room-like feel. And with this big, huge piece of glass above my head. It just feels nice, open, and airy. And these seats are comfortable too. There are heated seats at the second row. These are power seats. Yeah, power seats. And they have these nice armrests here. And with a press of a button, they slide and tip forward. And you can get access to that third row, which itself is pretty sizable back there. Look at that. That is big enough for adults. And looking around back there, there's quite a few amenities. You have a full set of controls back there for the rear AC system. There's USB ports as well as an AC port back there. Now, amenities for the second row passengers, pretty good too. As I mentioned, heated seats here, they are power. Window shades back here, which help keep the sun off the baby. I love that. Vents. Now, normally they'd be on the back of the console, but they've got them over here on the door post instead, which is a nice location because they're a little higher up, a little easier to get air right on your face. Like right now, it's over 100 degrees outside. I've got it blowing. And back here, of course, the aforementioned openable center console storage, but that's not all. There's also a nice little handy drawer down here that you can put a lot of stuff in. That does tie into the storage in the front. As we talked about, there's that extra deep well. This is the deep well. So that means that with that tray in there, somebody could still get down deep into the deep part of it from back here. So very versatile, very imaginative. Now to talk about cargo space. 14.6 cubic feet behind the third row, and putting that third row down just requires you to pull a couple of straps and fold those down manually. Then you've got 40.5 cubic feet behind the second row. And to put those down, a little bit easier, especially from the back. They're power seats, so you press the button and down they go. And as soon as they get down, then you've got a fully flat low floor back here with 79.6 cubic feet of space. That's a lot. And putting them back up, it's just a matter of pressing those buttons, raising them back up, pulling the straps on the third row seats and putting them back up. And it's worth noting that those seats are also adjustable for back rake. So there's a lot of adjustments for everybody to get where you want to get. And then when it comes to storage, you pull that floor up, you'll see the jack as well as a nice deep well back there for other things that you might have for road safety, like flares, maybe shoes, boots, extra things that you don't need. And if you're wondering where the spare is, that's down underneath. It still has one, they've just put it in a different place than we normally expect. This is an interior that has just knocked my socks off. Can you tell? I love the design, I love the quality. It feels a step or two up in price. I really feel like this is something you'd expect in a Genesis or a more expensive luxury brand like Audi or something like that, Volvo. But this is Hyundai, and everything you see here is within the price tag we talked about. It not only feels its price, it feels a step above. And all of this design razzmatazz and look and feel and boldness that they've done here didn't sacrifice versatility. There's plenty of that to be had. This interior gets 5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is the top of the line 12.3-inch screen with Bose audio system. Now, it is the same size screen with the base models, although it does have a little bit less feature content behind it. But here, it is fully featured wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, Bluetooth connectivity, navigation. The sound quality from the Bose audio system is absolutely amazing. But there's this other little feature that I've seen in Hyundai vehicles of late that I absolutely love, and that is the sounds of nature. This is something that you can turn that on, go for any number of meditative, quiet, atmospheric soundtracks. And this actually allows this vehicle, with the right settings, to become sort of a mobile meditation pod. I would totally do that. I totally would. On a stressful day at work, it'd be nice to come out and just go to the parking lot, get in the car, and zone out for a little bit. I absolutely love it. Another great feature here is the 360-degree view camera, which not only has the 360-degree view that allows you to see all around the vehicle, but it has a very cool setting that gives you sort of a bird's eye 3D view that really helps you place this vehicle in a tight parking space, helps you see what's around you in a different way. Really helpful for things like parallel parking too. You can also dig into the settings and control any number of things, from the advanced driver assistance systems that this vehicle has, to the seats, the comfort, the climate control. all of it. This infotainment system gets 5 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, let's take a drive. Now, the first thing I always like to get out of the way is what's under the hood. This now comes standard with a 2.5 liter turbocharged engine. This one, it has 277 horsepower, 311 pound-feet of torque, and it comes mated to an 8-speed dual clutch transmission, an automatic. Different kind of automatic than you're going to get in traditional cars, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So if you watch my videos, you know the question I always like to ask is, how does it go? So we're going to come to a complete stop. We're out here in the middle of nowhere. Nobody's around. And I'm just going to mash the pedal and go. A little slow to get rolling, but it's pulling good. And 60. Yeah. So once it gets rolling, power comes on pretty strong, and it does a pretty good job of moving this heavy beast down the road. Now I'm laying on the brakes, corner coming up. This handles pretty good, but it's not a sports car. Mash the pedal, and the transmission delivers downshifts in a way that I would call predictable. Sounds good too. Not too thrashy. And also really no torque steer to speak of, and I'd expect that in a vehicle with all-wheel drive. So it's got decent power, moves this vehicle pretty good. The refinement level is, I would say, B+ to A-. You can hear it working, you can feel it working, but it's not what I would call thrashy. Now the transmission, I would tell you, is vastly improved over the DCT that I've tested in previous generations of this vehicle, which is to say it's less jerky, it's less unpredictable, but it still does things like not engage right away when you mash the pedal off the line. There's still delay, there's still a little bit of herky-jerkiness like in a parking lot. Cattle guard. And this also has auto start-stop. Boom, off goes the engine, and so with it does the air conditioning. It starts back up, and off we go. Normally I have that turned off, which gets us to fuel economy. This is rated at 20 city, 28 highway, and 23 MPG combined as tested. I actually saw about 18 miles to the gallon in my week of testing combined. So not nearly as efficient as we might think it should be given the turbo 4-cylinder engine and so forth. And quite honestly, it's because of the turbo 4-cylinder engine that it tends to be thirsty. You have to be on the boost more often, sucking fuel. It's pretty common in vehicles like this. I say the old V6s tended to be a lot more efficient, but those days are gone. So this is a powertrain that has plenty of power. The refinement levels are good, but it's a little bit thirsty, and this transmission still makes you kind of go, once in a while. This powertrain gets 4 out of 5 stars. Now to ride, drive, and handling. This is a vehicle that essentially rides on an evolutionary chassis design. While the styling inside and out is all new from the ground up, the chassis isn't necessarily, but it really does feel like an all-new chassis. Now, mechanical nuts and bolts, it's pretty simple. A McPherson strut front suspension, a multi-link rear suspension, and so it's pretty simple, not exotic in any way, but this is a vehicle that really feels good. That was a cattle guard. And when I say it feels good, I mean that it almost feels like a German brand, like a BMW or an Audi, relative to its suspension tuning, its handling, and the overall feel. They've really done a lot of work in making this feel its price, and that it does. It has light steering. Of course, the drive mode can alter that somewhat, and with these low-profile tires and these big wheels, it's got a pretty good level of grip out here on the back road. Now, road noise, that was an area where I was a little bit surprised. It was kind of high. On our 70-mile-an-hour road test, this registered 71.1 decibels, which is one of the higher numbers that I've seen in quite a while. Mostly wind noise is what was really coming through on that test. So not so much tire and road noise, but wind noise. So maybe this is not quite as aerodynamic, I don't know, but it does feel good out here on the back road. You can really toss this thing into a corner, and it doesn't at all feel like it's nearly as heavy as it is. So that is a good thing. Now, are there areas of this chassis that could be improved? Yes. Because of these low-profile tires, if you drive over rougher surfaces, pockmarked roads, speed bumps, these cattle guards, it does tend to come through a little bit more. It tends to get a little bit harsh. Whew. It does corner good though. So the suspension and the tuning is vastly improved over last year's model, but it could still use a little bit of refinement. I will point out though, if you get a lower trim grade with taller sidewall tires, the ride quality might be improved somewhat. Nonetheless, this chassis gets 4.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, my friends, there you have it for our test drive and our walk around inside and out of the 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe, this being the fully loaded Calligraphy. Now, I've got to tell you, if you haven't already noticed, I'm pretty smitten with this thing. Primarily, it's the design that really hits me square in the face and I really resonate with it, but it's also the levels of quality, the equipment, the warranty, all of the things that make a vehicle a good buy, a good value, and a smart thing to purchase. And so that gets us to the last part of our conversation here, which is value and competitiveness. With this new model, larger, more stuff, cutting edge design, class leading things inside and out, I would say if you're looking at things like a Toyota Highlander, a Nissan Pathfinder, a lot of different things in the market that you can compare this to, this is pretty strong in a lot of ways. It just is. And it stands apart. It's different. And with this design, I think it's just something worth having a look at if you like it. Now, if you look at this and go, no, well, then don't even bother, okay? But if you're looking at it in what you get for the money at this price, this is a great value for everything you get. And the warranty, 10 years, 100,000 miles powertrain, and the bumper to bumper at 5 years, 60,000 miles is better than what most of the other competitors offer for anything at all. It's pretty hard to pass up. So I put value here at 5 out of 5 stars, duh. And so when you put that in with everything else we've already talked about, we're at 4.7 out of 5 stars for the total review score. Very good. And you know what else? It goes on my buy list. That means that's the highest praise I can give a vehicle. If I were shopping for an SUV, a 3-row SUV, even if it was just maybe not a 3-row, it'd be a bonus. I would totally buy this. And honestly, I've been kind of looking at the website and building some different color combinations. And I would probably go for the hybrid just because I prefer higher MPG and the horsepower difference isn't that much different. I've driven the hybrids from Hyundai and they're pretty good. So impressive all around. I would totally buy this. Yeah, so there you go. If you like what we do, you can see our latest video right there. Better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that right down there.